Welcome to the Codcast. I'm Bruce Moll from CommonWealth Magazine, and I'm joined by Representative Jeffrey Roy of Franklin, the House Chair of the Legislature's Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy Committee. For the sake of our conversation, he's the House's energy guy. Welcome, Representative.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Bruce. It's great to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
So in a recent report that you did for the House, you said offshore wind has the potential to be the next high-tech industry in Massachusetts, the next biotech. I wanted to spend a little time talking about the potential of offshore wind and the reality. Where do you think we are today?
Well, we're in great shape. Offshore wind is a large and growing source of energy around the world, and it's really poised for rapid growth throughout the United States. President Biden has put in place a goal of 30,000 megawatts by 2030. And under the present state of things, Massachusetts can deliver 1/3 of that national goal because we are so well poised to deliver energy. We have 14 miles off the coast of Massachusetts. We have the most robust wind in the entire contiguous United States. And it's something that we need to take advantage of as we are referred to as the Saudi Arabia of wind. And we need to harness that energy and make it work for everybody in Massachusetts.
And you had you were at a conference last week talking about a major offshore wind conference here in Boston. Any takeaways from that you got, feeling about the state of the industry and what's coming?
Well, no pun intended, but there was a lot of energy in the room and a lot of excitement. And I think one of the key pieces that was introduced at the conference was an updated report which indicated that the offshore wind industry has the potential to bring back $109 billion, that's billion with a B, dollars in economic material for our area in the United States. And it really signals that it's an industry that is ripe for harnessing. And we're trying to position Massachusetts to take advantage of that and really reap the economic benefits of an offshore wind industry. It's exciting because it's a brand new industry. And I hearken back to what we did with the biotech industry in Massachusetts. We really honed in on it with laser-like intensity and built a really strong biotech industry in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And there's no reason we can't do the same thing for wind.
So the governor at that conference made what I think he considered a major announcement, calling for a large amount of federal funding that we have sort of sitting on the table and using it to invest in offshore wind. And he also talked about more arcane stuff, but very important policymaking. He wanted to lift the so-called price cap on procurements, which requires each procurement to come in at a slightly lower price. Now, you and your colleagues in the House have been talking about a package, legislation. Bring us up to date on what you're thinking right now and how that dovetails or doesn't with what the governor proposed.
Well, you may recall that several weeks ago, the speaker went out. We went on a trip with about 40 of our House colleagues out to Block Island to get an up-close look at the turbines off of the coast of Rhode Island. And during that trip, he made some significant announcements himself about things that the House was going to be looking at to really bolster the offshore wind industry here. And one of the top things he talked about was looking at eliminating the price cap and trying to decrease the emphasis on price and really focus in on what economic benefits could be part of an offshore wind package from future bidders. And, we needed to increase the weight of economic development impacts in future proposals. We certainly talked about that. We talked about an offshore wind investment fund, trying to emulate what we did for the life sciences. We talked about port infrastructure improvements, enhancing the coordination role and funding for Mass CEC, and also talked about, an innovation and entrepreneurship center in Massachusetts, so that we really could develop a robust cluster and be the go-to place for offshore wind. So those announcements came, and he tasked me with putting together a bill that would include those elements. We're working on it right now. And so we know that the speaker is committed to it. We know that what he wants to do. So I was actually, it was nice to see that the governor is on board and did his own bill. And we're going to take a good close look at that. But it mirrors many of the things that we have talked about already. And it's nice to know that at least two of the branches of our government are in place to move the offshore wind bill and bolster that industry. So I'm looking forward to getting it onto the House floor.
So a couple things about those issues. One is the governor was proposing a large amount of the money in the federal aid. Is that probably where the House would go as well in terms of trying to fund a long-term or investment in offshore wind?
I would assume that we will take a look at using ARPA funds for some of the pieces, but I wouldn't say it's entirely, because this is a long-term effort, and we're going to have to put a stream in place that could go out potentially 10 years. The ARPA funds have a smaller time period within which to use those funds. So I'm sure it'll be a part of it, though.
And then on the bringing economic development more into the deliberations about contracting for offshore wind, I just want to explore with you a little bit of the trade-offs of that. If I understand it correctly, a lot of other states, and in fact, the companies that have bid in Massachusetts in the past have sort of said, hey, we'll give you a really our lowest price we can give, or we might increase the price somewhat, but perhaps invest in some sort of manufacturing facility onshore. So is the sort of the trade-off is you might accept a bit of a higher price for the power, but you'll get an investment in the future and jobs that'll hopefully be there for the long run. Is that a fair trade-off about what's being deliberated here?
Yeah, I think that's certainly a fair trade-off. The economic development, think of what a manufacturing facility could do to a community where it's located. Think about places like New Bedford, places like Brayton Point, Salem, bringing in a facility that's going to create jobs and good paying jobs and long-term jobs is something that will, in the end of the day, probably bring in more revenue for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts than the cost of a slightly higher price. Now, keep in mind, we're not talking about incredible increments on the price. It has to be a competitive price for Massachusetts to accept the bid. And if a price comes in that's egregious, there's no reason that the Commonwealth can't reject it. But economic activity is something that we've seen going to other states. New York has benefited tremendously on economic development. New Jersey has benefited tremendously. We wanted to see some of that economic development right here in Massachusetts. We have great innovators. We have a skilled workforce, and there's no reason we can't have that, that type of economic development playing a part in our entire industry for offshore wind.
So the people on maybe the other side of that argument would say, yeah, if the price goes up a little bit, I mean, you're saying if the price is a little bit higher, the trade-off is well worth it. The other side might say, yeah, but we already have some of the highest prices in the country, and our goal is to get everything on electricity, transportation, housing, heating and cooling, and you name it. And so is that the end goal, climate change, dealing with climate change, or is the end goal getting a plant or two located here in Massachusetts?
Well, certainly the end goal is climate, fighting climate change and getting clean energy. We need to be on, by 2050, net zero. And that's going to take a lot of energy. I mean, if you go to ISO, I have the ISO app on my phone. I bring it up every single day. And, natural gas is providing, 65 to 80% of the energy in Massachusetts at any given time, and you can turn it on at any moment. So it's going to take a lot of other sources of energy to get us off of that fossil fuel. So certainly the end game is climate change, but price is important. I mean, I hear from manufacturers. One of my other roles in the legislature is the House Chair of the Manufacturing Caucus, and constantly hearing about the high cost of energy in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So we have to be cognizant of that. But keep in mind, when we put the price cap in place, there were estimates that wind was going to be in the 25-cent range. And the bids that have come in Massachusetts are in the 5 and 6 cents range. So it was brilliant to put that price cap in at the beginning of this journey, and it worked. We drove the prices down. But now, if you're in that 5 and 6 cent range, a potential bidder is going to know that they can't go much higher than that in order to entice Massachusetts to collect the bid. But if for a little bit of a price increase, if we can get some economic development at the same time we're saving the planet, that's a win-win for everybody.
You mentioned it's great to see two of the three branches sort of embracing these ideas. You left out that there's a third branch, obviously, the Senate. And I don't have any sense of the Senate as a whole, to be honest with you, but your counterpart on your committee, Senator Michael Barrett, has expressed some concerns about lifting the cap, and maybe he's reflecting that point of view about not raising the price of electricity too much. Do you get a sense that there's a consensus building on Beacon Hill about this? Because I do see you at that conference last week, you're right, a lot of energy in the room, a lot of businesses booming mentality type people walking through the halls there. Do you get the sense that there's a consensus building on Beacon Hill to do something?
I certainly feel it. And Senator Barrett is one of the brightest people I know. He's a great partner in this effort. And we haven't had detailed conversations on this, but I've seen his comments, and he likes portions of what the governor proposed. And I get his concerns with the price cap. And we're going to continue to have conversations on that, because this is not going to work unless we build consensus. And, I'm looking forward to having those discussions with him, because I enjoy working with him, frankly.
And do you have any sense, I must admit, when the governor made his announcement, he's been a huge believer in low prices and sort of just always beaming about the low prices that the state has gotten. And that's not to say he wouldn't say, if he was here with us, that he wouldn't say now the times have changed. I think that's what he was arguing last week. But I guess, do you have any sense of what changed his mind? Have you gotten any sense of why the change of attitude on his part?
I'm sure he's heard from a lot of folks that, at 5.8 cents, a price cap is not attractive for bidders. And, if you really want to work and get economic development, you got to relook at that. And I know he's heard it from the House and the Speaker and folks from industry who have raised this, because I've heard it repeatedly over the years. And I've talked to Secretary Theoharides, and she gets it, and she is another one who's very bright and very well versed in this area. And I think looking at it, the governor has probably looked at it the way I did. It was brilliant to have the price cap at the beginning. It worked. Let's try something new to stimulate the economic development pieces of the wind industry. And this is a once in a lifetime opportunity to build a new industry. So it takes some real innovative thinking, and I think that's really what's behind all of these conversations.
In the procurement that is going on right now, two companies of the four that could potentially bid on the Massachusetts leased area properties, two bid in this recent round. And you mentioned that trip out to see the wind turbines with the Speaker and a number of your colleagues. That the fact that there were only two was raised, I believe, as a concern, and you want more. But in my talking with these companies, some of the ones that haven't really jumped in yet, they've been pressing. I know they've been on Beacon Hill pressing to lift the price cap and get access to it, but not all of the companies seem to feel the same way. They sort of, some of them, talking to them privately, they sort of talk about, well, I think we can keep lowering the price and do something on the economic development front. I'm just sort of curious. I know they probably approached you. Have they all been unanimous in saying, lift the cap, let us loose?
I wouldn't say they all have, but it's certainly a theme that has gone through the conversations that I've had on the topic. And look, if they want to come in with a lower price and economic development, believe me, we're gung-ho for that. But if they need some wiggle room with the price cap to put in economic development, I think we can be somewhat flexible. But it's important that future projects come in with economic development. I was encouraged with what I saw from some of the two bids that came in. They, even with the price cap, they have some economic development pieces in there. But truthfully, I think we can do a bit better. I look at New York, I look at New Jersey, and I want to see that here in Massachusetts.
So last question is just a little bit, a bit of a tangent. I'm an old geezer covering this stuff up at the State House, and I was around when Cape Wind was trying to make a go of it and never quite got over the hurdles that were constantly put in front of it. And one of those hurdles was continuous lawsuits being filed against the company trying to block it at various stages. And it just sort of choked the effort at one point. So I've been, I don't know if it's me, just deja vu and maybe a little bit of a downer on this stuff, but there's been two or three lawsuits filed against the Vineyard Wind Project now, usually on good, environmental issues. Are we protecting right whales? Are we protecting fishing? All that sort of stuff. How you're gung-ho about this? The House is gung-ho. Are you nervous about these lawsuits that they could put a hold on things, delay things? What's your feeling about that at this point? People are raising some legitimate concerns. I would say it's on the environmental and fisheries mitigation issues is largely what the litigation is all about. But I think the companies have been responsible. We're encouraging them to truly take into account, fisheries mitigation and environmental issues that are raised in these lawsuits. I'm not concerned
that it will further impede the projects. I think we're far enough along that I'm confident that they will move, but certainly it's out there. And we have to deal with it. Actually, the companies have to deal with it. They're the ones who are the defendants, and they're on the other side of the V. But this gives us an opportunity to really look at our whole grid and transmission planning and do some great things to provide energy. If we go through with the 5,600 megawatts that are already authorized, we'll have enough power to power every home and business in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and we'll have excess energy that we can either put in storage or sell to other states. So I think we're in a good position. I'm confident, I'm excited, and I'm looking forward to seeing this industry truly develop here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And I don't want to ignore or belittle any lawsuit that's out there. People have a right to access to the courts and seek justice. And I'm sure that they will get justice in the end, and we will have a robust wind industry in Massachusetts.
Representative Roy, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Nice to talk with you, and look forward to seeing you again and talking more in the future as this whole thing rolls out.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you.